Welcome to the Potential Podcast, where we highlight guests that are in pursuit of their potential and living in it fully. As you know, at True North Development, we're here to help you discover yours and live in it. Today's topic is perseverance. Very excited about this. We'll introduce our guest to you in just a moment. I just want to point out, we encourage you to use the comment section, share your ideas, share your thoughts, share the things that you may have gleaned from this video, this interview. And also, we do provide show notes with resources, so please take advantage of those. So let's get started. Welcome back to the Potential Podcast. We have my new friend Jeremy here today.
Thank you, Greg.
We're just getting to know each other, actually.
You are.
We have a common friend. Samuel is actually behind the camera today. So he's really helped me, get my business going and put together, branding and shoot a lot of the video and produce a lot of the video for us. So I'm excited that you're both here with me today. But introduce yourself to the audience. Who's Jeremy? Tell us about your family and your business. We're in the middle of a wedding venue called the Pinery.
That's right.
In Central Florida. So give us an overview of what.
So my name is Jeremy, and my wife and I, we started the Pinery 2.5 years ago. We've only been open for business for a year, and it's just been a great journey on how we got here, as far as the business and our marriage. We got married 4 years ago, so there's a lot of change. And we're originally from South Florida, so we're not from the Central Florida area originally.
Okay, South Florida. So you grew up?
I grew up, born and raised in Miami.
Okay.
In South Florida,
all right.
Mainly. My wife as well. And that's where my journey began. So how we got the Pinery, or how we got into the wedding
venue business, right?
Was when I was 19. I met my mentor. He taught me sales. It just so happened he owned the manufacturer of all the chairs and tables for the wedding industry. And it just kind of took off from there. I've learned a lot from him over the years. And because of him and because of my sales job with him, it has allowed me to invest in different things. I did a little bit of real estate, which I know you do real estate as well.
Yeah.
I dabbled in real estate for a little bit. And when COVID hit, my wife and I looked at each other and we're like, hey, I don't know where this whole real estate thing's going to go. So we kind of took all of our money out of real estate and we moved up here and we started this business.
Wow. So when did you decide, like, I want to own a wedding venue?
I've always told my wife that, hey, it would be foolish of me not to open up a wedding venue just because I knew too much of it. Remember, I'm in sales, so I'm selling to all the wedding venue owners, all the GMs of, Fortune 500 companies or country clubs. So I learned the business through them, firsthand perspective through them over the 17 years. So I told her, hey, listen, if we don't get into this, it would be foolish. It would be a waste of knowledge, and experience I have built up not to open it. So when COVID hit and we're both sitting in our house, literally not being able to go anywhere, I remember I was just in the kitchen doing dishes and she's in the living room and you can see her across. She just shouted at me. She's like, hey, so when are we going to open up the wedding venue? And I was like, I don't know, and she's like, listen, if we don't do something now, we'll never leave Miami. And I was like, we're kind of getting tired of the rat race there and just like the hustle and bustle of Miami life. And I kid you not, from the moment she made that statement to the moment we bought the house, it was about 2 months. So we moved fast.
2 months to bought this house?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So it must have been stirring inside of you.
Yeah, it has been stirring inside of me. And but here's the interesting part about just the whole thing. We didn't know how we were going to do it. Yes, we had some cash from our investments, granted, but I still needed a job. It wasn't enough money to build out the venue, do all the construction, which took 1.5 years. And and be able to still provide, right? And pay this new mortgage payment and all this kind of stuff. So I still needed my day job, or I needed a job. And my boss always told me, he's like, nope. He's like, I don't want you to leave. I don't want to pay a sales rep to work from home. He's like, I need you here. I need you in the office. We have walking clients, all this stuff. So we just took the leap of faith, and I was like, you know what, babe, let's just go ahead and do it. So it's kind of interesting. It's God moving and guiding us. And how it all started is, and I'm a big believer in this, is that if you move, God moves. That's it. That's my motto. You move, God moves. It's like activating prayer, right? Just walk into it. So what I did was I was like, okay, I called my mortgage guy. I'm not even lying to you. I got a full approval in 1 week. Now, this is not a pre-approval. It's a full approval. What that means is like, hey, Jeremy, you are guaranteed this money. We're going to give it to you no matter what in 1 week. And that's hard, let alone during COVID when everybody's at home, right? Yeah. So I got a full approval within 1 week. Then what happened next? 3 weeks after that, we saw this house. Now, another thing that's happened in our lives is we've seen things one time and bought on site. And that was this property. This is the only property we saw. Never saw no other property. We just felt like God was leading us here. We wrote an offer. 3 days later, accepted. That's it. We were pretty much moving here. Now, we still had the question of the job, right? I haven't looked for a new job. I haven't talked to my boss. And my wife looked at me and she's like, hey, Jeremy, I think it's time that you talk to Sean. Let him know that you're going to be moving to Orlando or the Central Florida area. So I said, okay. And that's exactly what I did. I went and I spoke to him a couple days later, and I didn't know what he was going to say. So I just kind of approached him in the sense like, hey, listen, I love my job. I love working here. I love working for you. But I have to tell you that we just bought a house in Orlando, Florida. And he's like, oh, man, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I'm like, yeah, and we're moving. So with that being said, it's okay if you say no. I totally understand. But I would still like to work for the company. I would like to work from home. And if you don't, that's okay. I'll find a job in Orlando. But no matter what, we're moving, And he's like, well, you give me no choice. I love you too much to let you go. Wow. And he gave me the job. So I work from home still. But things are moving. Things are transitioning where one day, it's just Pinery full time. But in the meantime, that's how we ended up here. Wow. So my wife, she left her job and one income. So there was a lot of trusting God in the process. That's for sure.
So it was easy to leave Miami.
It was. I was tired of just, you worked 9 to 5, you were in traffic for an hour and a half, there to work, back from work, you eat, and the last thing you want to do is just do anything else. You'll watch TV and go to sleep and do it all over again 5 days a week, And we were just tired of that. We didn't want that life anymore. We believed that there was more in store for us. We believed that we wanted to take our kids to school and just be available. And so that's what really drove us to opening up our own business.
So you had a little bit of a bigger vision for your future.
Certainly.
And how you wanted to live as a family.
Yes.
What kind of contribution you want to make in the world. I mean, you walked me around your wedding venue here a few minutes ago, and wow, it is incredible. It's beautiful. You have a vision for the future on what you want people to feel like when they're here.
For sure.
And what you want the bigger experience to be like. So paint us a little bit more about that picture.
It's attached to our calling.
Okay. Tell me about that.
We spoke about that when we first met.
A little bit, yes.
But, everyone has a calling in life. Everyone has their potential, right? And you have to figure out what that potential is. And so early on, I figured out that I love speaking to people. Makes sense, right? I'm a salesman. Love talking to people. And that's how church, my local church back in Miami, really brought that gift out of me, was because when I discovered that I love talking to people, I picked up serving at church as a greeter. I'll stand at the door and I'll greet everybody that came in. Yes. And I took it Seriously, it wasn't just saying hi to someone. It was making people feel good. Like, hey, that's a beautiful dress on you today. I hope you enjoy this Sunday afternoon. Or, hey, man, that hat looks great on you. You know, I took it a step further when it came to my greeting, and I realized that I was changing the way people feel in a good way. And so that's how I really discovered my gift when I was younger, in my teens, 13, 14, right in that age. And then as I got older, and I knew that I just loved people.
And something special happened in your role as a greeter as well. I think you told me you met someone.
I met my wife.
You did. Isn't that amazing?
It's, at the time that I met her, I was 30.
Okay.
So it was a pivotal moment for me. I'm 30 years old. I'm not married. I didn't have anyone. I was doing good at my job, doing sales, selling all the wedding furniture, and I just needed someone. But it couldn't just be anybody. It had to be someone special. And so I met her because she joined team. She was a greeter as well. So my wife also loves people. So it's just amazing to see how God brought me someone who is very similar to me. We're different, but very similar in our potential and our calling. And we get to use that in our business.
Well, what I've heard so far about your relationship, I have not met your wife yet,
No.
but it sounds like she asks very thoughtful questions. There was a couple of things that I heard from you. Hey, when are we going to open our wedding venue? You told me a little bit about that story. She's sitting in the living room, you're washing dishes, and she asked an impactful question. It changed the trajectory of everything that you were working on, right? And
for sure.
Where your mindset was. And then she also asked you, hey, I think it's time to tell your boss we're moving, right? So she's motivates you. She
does. She motivates me a lot. And what I mean by that is she for us. Hey, when have we not taken a step and he's shown up where we're at, And so she's a constant just reminder and motivator when it comes to things like that.
So she has faith.
She does. She's a powerful woman of God.
She's not afraid to inspire change.
No, she's not.
Most of us humans don't really love change. So what kind of obstacles have you had to overcome? I know we talked about, you said it was, how long ago did you move here?
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years, where you bought the venue and moved in. You're just entering into your second full wedding season, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, so you haven't had the business open yet for 2 years.
We just made a year in March.
Just made it a year in March. There's been a significant amount of work that has gone into this property.
Yeah.
Just fence, landscaping, all the different areas that you've made available for the wedding venue is really amazing. So working a full-time job and working on the wedding venue and taking all of your savings, right?
Yeah,
the investments and kind of putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yep.
It requires a lot. So tell me about perseverance. When you and I first talked, you said it's easy. I know what I want to talk about, perseverance. And you feel like that's been a consistent mechanism in your life
For sure.
to help you accomplish some pretty amazing things. Tell me about perseverance and your mindset as it surrounds that topic.
My mindset on perseverance is, I was going to tell you this earlier, but perseverance for me stems from drive, and drive stems from passion.
Okay.
Period.
Love it.
And I feel like your calling is attached to your passion. Whether you know it or not, it's what motivates you. It's what keeps you moving in life. And so for me, coming out here and doing this, working a day job and working, the pinery, it's a lot. It takes a toll on me. I'll give you just an example. We have a half-acre tropical garden with over 937 plants. And the only reason why I know that number is not only did we pay for it, me and my wife planted every single one of them ourselves. So that's how I know that number. And so what I did was I would wake up at the crack of dawn, 5:30, drink my coffee, 6 o'clock, I'm outside. Now, my day job doesn't start till 9, and I don't get off till 5. But they do give me an hour lunch break. So technically, my sales job is only about 7 hours a day. So what I do is I would work from 6 to 9, which my home is 500 feet away from the garden. I'll work those 3 hours. I'll go back inside. I'll work my day job on a computer in an office. My hour lunch break, I would jump right back outside, continue doing whatever that task is for the day. Whether it was planting, putting up fences, making, the bar, the dance floor, just everything that it just entailed, right? We made the benches for the ceremony. I made the ark, just everything. I would do that an hour during my lunch break. I would go back to work. 5 o'clock will end. I'll come right back outside, and I'll do it until the sun went down about 7:30-ish. Usually in the summertime, 7:38. And I did that every day. And the only reason why I did it is because I was passionate.
And you feel like you were called to create this wedding venue.
Yes. And the reason for that is that even though we created all this, the business is not a product. It's people. People come here. People fall in love with it. We serve people while they're getting married here. We're making their dreams come true for that special day for them. And so it's people. It's our service. So it's attached to my calling because me and my wife, we're people. We love people. People are our hearts. It just makes me a little emotional. Yeah. Because we've come a long way. We've really come a long way, and just to know that we're walking in God's will, that's all that matters.
Thank you. You okay?
I'm good. Just takes a moment. I'm emotional.
I'm
Jeremiah the prophet, right?
Yes.
The weeping prophet.
Hey, I believe that's one of the ways God speaks to us is through our emotions.
For sure.
When the Spirit wells up inside of you, you have to go with it. You're on the right track, right?
Especially when you're filming, you can't help it.
That's right. So I want to back up and talk a little bit more about the real estate business.
Yeah.
Not only because I love it, and I love to hear stories about people walking through the business, because it's not an easy business. It can be very challenging. We're here to serve people. When people are engaged in the real estate process, whether they're buying or selling or both, it can be very challenging. It can be very emotional. It can be very stressful for all parties involved.
It can be very cutthroat too.
It can be. It can be. So just tell me about your real estate experience and what that was like.
How I got into real estate and how I fell in love with it. I was 15 years old, and my best friend at the time, who lived in Miami, his dad owned a very successful business. He just told me from one day to the next, hey, we're moving to Orlando. Which is kind of funny, right? We're here in Orlando. And I didn't know too much. He just said, oh, my dad's going to go do real estate. So when the summertime would come around, you know, our families were they knew each other very well. They would let me come up here for the whole summer. So I'll spend 3 months out of the summer in Orlando with my best friend's family. And what I ended up finding out was his dad somehow found investors, and he was doing condo conversions in the early 2000s here in Orlando. And for most people who don't know what that is, you just buy an existing apartment complex or townhouse community, let's say 300 apartments. He would buy the whole community. He would revamp the whole community, like one giant flip on each individual apartment. And then he would resell them individually to buyers. And then he would just turn it over to an association of some sort. And so, I don't know. When I moved up here, we always had to work with his dad. Like every day was like, all right, you're going with your dad, you know, which is my friend's dad. And we'll go with him to work, and I'll sit in these $1 million meetings with people. And me and my friend were just wearing like basketball shorts and stuff. And I would hear him speak. And I was like, man, this is interesting. And then he started putting us to work, and we'll go inside, you know, individual apartments, and with a jackhammer at 15, we're like taking out tile. And I just fell in love with it. I don't know, there was just something so cool about it. And I think that his father really saw that I fell in love with it. And his dad just started taking me everywhere. Like I felt like I became the son. Literally, he was just taking me everywhere, learning all these things. And so that's where my passion for real estate began. So fast forward, when I'm 18 and I'm leaving high school, I wasn't a good student, didn't like school, nothing. I literally graduated with a 2.0, didn't care. And my dad's a high school teacher, by the way. I knew I didn't want to go to college. I already knew it. So I told my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to real estate school, and I'm going to try to give this real estate thing a shot. And he said, go ahead, go do it. You know, he gave me the green light, and I went to real estate school. And this is where perseverance comes in. Real estate for me, I was only doing it because I wanted to be a real estate investor. I didn't want to be a realtor. But I quickly learned that no realtor ever wants to give an investor a good deal unless they know you have pockets or deep pockets where they could just come to you and literally offload a house on you real quick. I didn't have that. I didn't have the money. I was broke. I'm 18 years old. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to real estate school. I'm going to learn that sort of business, which is sales, which I didn't even start my sales career yet. And I'm going to go ahead and get my license, and then I'll figure it out from there. At least I would have access to the MLS, and I can just buy my own properties. I don't have to rely on no realtor. So I went to school, took me a week, graduated school, but then the state exam came. And did I tell you, I was poor in high school. I didn't like school. I didn't like test taking, anything like that. So it kind of mixes. I found my mentor, and I found my sales job doing the furniture in the process of getting my license. So within that 2 years, so they mix, they kind of go hand in hand. In 2 years, I kid you not, I took that state exam 18 times. Talk about perseverance. You know how many people would have given up by now? 18 times, I'll never forget. And I passed it on the 19th try.
Oh my gosh.
And all you need to get is a 75 or more. And I couldn't do it. So 18 times I failed it, passed on the 19th try. And back while I was going for the real estate exam, I met my mentor working in a container, offloading all these chairs and tables with my best friend. He invited me. He's like, hey, come on, we'll make some money. You're broke. I said, okay. I went and I'm offloading this container, and randomly this young guy comes and he starts helping us. And his name's Sean. Met Sean, and we're just there offloading all these chairs and tables. And so after like a whole day of hard work in the sun, in this heat of a container, I asked my best friend, okay, so how do I get paid? He's like, yeah, just go to Sean's office tomorrow. I'm like, Sean, like the guy that was just here? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, who's he? And he's like, he's the owner. And I'm like, man, that's it. Like for me, just that day talking to Sean, hanging out with him, I knew he was very smart, very intelligent. did well for himself. And I just went and I asked him for a job. And that's how I started, that phase. But it gets deeper. There's another perseverance part of it. That night before the next day I was going to collect my paycheck, I had a dream. And I really felt that God spoke to me in that dream.
Okay.
And that was a powerful dream. That dream pretty much changed my life, right? Because it got me here, 17 years. So what I did was I was just obedient. So pretty much what I just felt like the Lord spoke to me in that dream was, hey, Jeremy, tomorrow you're going to go to Sean and you're going to ask him if you can learn business for him. And in return, you're going to work for him for free. And I said, that's crazy. That was the dream. I woke up and I was just thinking, I'm like, man, like, who works for someone for free? You know what I mean? I just thought it was absurd, but I knew that it was from God. There was something in my spirit that just told me like, hey, this is real. Like, God is speaking to you. So that's what I did. I put on a nice shirt, nice pants, and I went to go collect my paycheck. And when I sat down, I just like, hey, Sean, do you have a quick moment? He's like, yeah, go ahead. And I just told him like, hey, listen, I noticed yesterday working with you that you're very smart and very intelligent, and no one in my family knows business. So I was wondering if you're up for it, I would work for you for free. And in return, I just want to hang out with you. I just want to learn and business. I just want to know the things that you know, like what experiences you've gone through to make you who you are today in business. He's like, wow, that's really interesting. I've never had someone propose me that before. And so it so happens his wife is in the other office. So he calls his wife. He's like, let's come over here. And she comes over and he says the same thing to her that I just said in front of my face. He's like, Jeremy just asked if he can work for free. And she's like, what's wrong with that? And he's like, you don't think this is kind of crazy? And she's like, no, why don't you teach him? And he could do stuff here around the office or whatever, He's like, okay. So she ends up walking away. He's like, Jeremy, I've never done this before, so I can't promise you where this is going to go. But come tomorrow, bring a notepad, and I'll start teaching you. And that's how my sales career began. So it was at the same time while I was studying for the real estate license, and still failing it every day. Yes. So I start working for this guy for free, literally writing down notes, learning everything about him. I'm hearing him talk on the phone because he was the sales guy at the time. And man, this guy can speak to people. Remember, I love people and I'm a talker, and I'm just seeing like the way, like first time ever, like, hey man, how are you? Like, how you doing today? Oh, where do you live? Oh, you're in Minnesota? You like the Vikings? And he just had a natural way of just like plugging into people. And I'm like, hey, have you ever met that guy? He's like, no, that's the first time I talked to him on the phone. And I'm like, wow, that's what I want to learn. And so I worked for the guy for 6 months for free before he offered me a job. But that job changed my life because when I started the job, I was 100% commission. I wasn't getting paid hourly, but I was just seeing God grow. My first month I made $600. Then the next month I made $1,000. And I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm like, I've never made $1,000 before, ever, And then I always felt like it was going to run out. Like, oh, this is too good to be true. And it didn't. It just kept growing and stabilizing. And while I'm doing the real estate exam, I'm praying to God, I want to be a real estate investor. How do I do that? And he answered me, and he told me flat out, you got to save. You got to save. That's the only way you're going to do it. At the time, I was thinking like, oh man, I could find an investor, but what investor is going to want to invest in me that I've never done real estate before, And so that's what I did. I just worked for Sean. I was working hard, trying to pass a real estate exam. So when I had the money, I can go ahead and start real estate investing. And then I was saving. And for, a good year, 2 years, that's all I was doing. And for many people, sometimes it could feel like you're at a standstill in life. But that's not necessarily true. God's molding you. God's showing you things that you didn't know before, you know? And he's bringing people into your life that you've never met before. And so that's how it happened. I ended up passing my real estate exam through the perseverance of the 19th try. I persevered by working for someone for free for 6 months. That's insane. No one does that. You know how many times I probably thought? I'm looking back now like, man, I'm going to quit. Like, I don't even want to work here anymore. Like, that's a bad deal, you know? And I did it. I persevered through that. And by year number 2 of working with Sean and actually making money, I already had my license. I got my license and I bought my first house. I bought my first house in the hood. Like, I'm talking about hood. Like, I was scared to drive there, but it was going to get me to where I needed to get to. And so...
So you bought it to fix it up and
I bought it to fix it up and sell it. And at the time, I started getting cold feet and scared, and I met another real estate investor, and he came on board and he showed me the ropes. So you see, while I was getting my real estate license, I met a real estate guy who has flipped houses before, and we went on the deal 50-50. And we bought this little house for $42,000, and we ended up selling it for $110,000.
Wow.
With only $15,000 in renovations. And it's because of him. He had all the contacts. He knew all the people, but
he was willing to invest in you.
Yeah.
But before we started filming, you were telling me about mentors you have now in your life.
Yeah.
Since you've moved here, you've connected with people that are pouring into you, right? And I'm certain that they would say the same about you.
Yeah.
That you pour into them as well.
For sure.
But it sounds like you have had the wisdom to find mentors.
For sure.
And just to ask them, hey, can I learn from you?
Of course. Mentorship is so important. It helps with your potential. Because what ends up happening is that mentors have similar potentials as you. And they can pull more out of you by motivating you. You know what I mean? And so that's what mentors have done. You know, especially Sean, for the last 17 years, he's poured so much into me. And so these new mentors that I found were another God gift. Remember, I told you I moved here. I don't know anyone.
Right.
You know, I don't know anyone, anything. I didn't even tell you, we bought this house. We didn't even know the area. We didn't know. We just knew that the Publix or the nearest grocery store was 15 minutes away. All we knew was that the highway, the main turnpike, was a 5-minute drive from the property. And all we knew from our house to Disney World was 35 minutes. And my thought before moving up here is like, you always want to grab your clientele from the biggest city, right? Or from the biggest populated area. So that was our deciding factor in how we bought this house.
Got it.
That's all we knew. Trusting God, right?
Yeah.
So these new mentors, they're like fathers. Grab yourself a mentor. Hey, Jeremy, how do you find the mentor? It's simple. Make friends. Make friends and show them that you're interested. And, you know, I feel like I have the opportunity to mentor people now as well, just for my experiences. But the number one thing a mentor wants to see is that you're willing to learn. If you just kind of go by like, you know, it's okay, a mentor's not going to pour into you. A mentor's not going to take their time with you. But if they see that you're driven, that you have passion, they're going to do everything to help you succeed. And these men have done just very that, you know. And they're older than me too, I told you. Yeah. The oldest is Bob, he's 78. And then I got my friend Dennis, he's 67, an awesome woodworker. And then my friend Pete, he's 56. And man, you know, I owe them a lot because when I met them through church, except for Dennis. Dennis just, his wife, like I said, just showed up on our property one day and said, we need a new sign. And hey, we can make a beautiful wood sign for you. That's how our relationship started. But he's a Christian man as well. And they helped me with the venue. So here's another thing. When you're moving in your potential and people see that you have vision, people want to attach to that vision. People feel like they want to see it grow. And it's so true. I can't tell you enough. It's just me and my wife here. And these men that I met, and they're like, wow, you're opening up a wedding venue? Wow, you're doing this? What are you doing today? You're building a bar? I'm going to come help you. I'm going to come help you do the woodworking for that. Hey, you're going to plant? I'm going to help you do that. Pete taught me things I never did before, because my whole life, for 30 years, I lived in an apartment in Miami with my parents. That's the Hispanic culture. You stay with your parents until you get married. 30 years living in an apartment. I didn't know anything about gardening. I didn't know anything about owning a land. I didn't know anything about picking up a shovel or a post hole digger, nothing. And this guy came along and he's like, yeah, we got to build a retaining wall. I'm like, okay, how do you build it? He's like, it's simple. We're going to put a post in. And he just started teaching me. And so since the day I met Pete, that he taught me to put a post in, I'm not lying to you, I think I've put over 150 posts on my property one way or another. Signs, fences, retaining walls, just anything. I've done so much. And so he has taught me so many things. But I think the reason why he taught me is because he saw I was driven. Yeah. He saw my vision for the pinery, and he wanted to attach himself to it. Yeah. And remember, there's a man, he owns his own successful business. He has his own farm. Like, he doesn't have to come here and show me, but it's just the drive. They see the drive and they see the potential of this property and what we're doing here. You just want to be a part of it, you know?
I have to make a comment, then I have another question. I think your post count is, I'm sure there are more than 150 posts here.
Yeah, but somewhere,
just
we're already here.
Around,
you know? But...
So it's just very impressive to me to see somebody with that kind of drive that's willing to give up, it might seem silly, TV time.
Yeah.
For how many plants in the 937 plants in the tropical garden. That's pretty incredible. So being in the real estate business for a very long time and doing my own real estate schooling over the years and helping a lot of other people go through the real estate schooling and broker schooling as well, it's pretty rare to meet someone that was willing to go for number 19 on their real estate exam. Yeah. It's very common for people to struggle passing the state exam. The numbers bear that out, that most people don't pass their first time, but you didn't pass 18 times.
I know.
What kept you showing up for the next one? What?
My passion to do real estate. I really wanted to do real estate investing. I wanted more for my life. You know, you always hear it. What's that saying? Man, I drew a blank. About like, you create your own dreams. Like, the sky's the limit. But guess what? Dreams are just dreams if you don't put action to it. Yeah. That's it. They die right there if you don't put no action to it. So I decided I wasn't going to let my dreams die. So the reason why I wanted to do real estate mainly was because I wanted my own schedule. I wanted to make my own money. I wanted to have my own limits. I didn't want to be limited by a salary or an employee telling me, hey, Jeremy, you can only make $50,000 a year. Yes. I didn't want that. And, you know, the more I worked with Sean, I saw that I'm 100% commission. When I put my effort to it, I made big paychecks. And when I did it, I saw it. And typically those were months that I would go on vacation, or maybe I was just a little bit less motivated that month. Yeah. But for the most part, and so I learned that, like, hey, I don't work an hourly rate. I don't. I'll be frank with you. I don't know what my hourly rate. The last time I checked was like 7 years ago, and it was like $160 an hour. Like, I don't know what my hourly rate is anymore, you know? I don't, because I'm an investor, right? I just know what I want to accomplish. I put finances behind it, and I just make it happen. Yeah. You know, and I just find ways. And when I don't know, I ask people. And that's why you have mentors for, because they can guide you, or they know someone else who knows the answer. Or quite frankly, I'll be frank with you, a lot of things I built on this property, I learned on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's not too hard to put a little bit of elbow grease into something and figuring it out. Yeah. You know? And so, yeah, that was my drive. I wanted more for myself. I didn't want to settle. And so,
you know, I love that. And so I've told a little bit of this story before. My 16-year-old son owns a car that
Yeah.
he saved up for. He owns a detailing business, and he worked his tail off for it. And he also likes to work on his own car. And he'll often jump into projects on the car off a quick YouTube video and figure it out. You know, he always figures it out. He sometimes figures it out as a result of mistakes that he's made. So he's got to be willing to like set his ego aside and know that this could go bad, but I'm going to try it anyway. And I'm going to learn from it, and then I'll try it again and learn from it. The story I told last time was related to he wanted to put new suspension parts under his car, a coilover system to replace the standard coil system in the car. And of course, I wanted to plan it all out. Well, let's do some research. And I came home one day, and he had the car jacked up, and the coil springs out, and he was going at it. Well, he just took those coilovers out again yesterday and put them back in. I think it's the 7th or 8th time that he's had to like readdress it for different reasons. But again, there's that perseverance.
For sure.
Like for me, I might get frustrated with that and walk away from it, or pay somebody else to do it, or there's other ways to get the job done, or sometimes just never do it, you know.
Sure.
But he was willing to fail, right? You have to be willing to fail in order to step into something like that. So it's just interesting to me. I know you and I were talking a little bit about this earlier, but you know, Angela Duckworth. She wrote this book called Grit. I think it was published 3, 4, or 5 years ago. But it's the study of success, or people who are able to accomplish goals in their life. And she debunks some myths about that. But in general, what the data suggests is that it's not genetics. A lot of people think, like you said, Sean, I think, like had a gift for talking to people. It probably was a gift, but like your talent with communicating with people and connecting with people is something you've developed over the years.
Sure.
It isn't something you just were born with.
No.
Most of the time, the talent that we have could be a gift from God.
For sure.
But it's our responsibility to develop it. And that requires us to go out and take chances and make mistakes. And that's how we learn and get better.
Yeah.
And that was exactly her big idea here, is that she says the power of passion and perseverance, which are two things you've mentioned multiple times in our conversation today.
Yeah.
That's what really makes people successful.
Certainly.
Is their passion for the work that they're doing, and perseverance, just not giving up, being willing to keep showing up 19 times. I have a vision for you. I think there's a book in your horizon titled The 19th Try. What do you think?
I think it's possible. I would definitely need help with it, because I am not a writer whatsoever. That's the one thing that I never really liked. But hey,
the story's got to be told, my friend.
At some
point. The 19th try. That's amazing to me. So thank you for that. As we wrap up, paint a little bit of a picture for us about your venue here and what it looks like in the future. I know you were sharing a little bit of that with me earlier, but just a high-level overview of what it's going to be like here at the Pinery in the future.
Sure. So, eventually I do see myself retiring from doing sales with the wedding furniture, which it's okay. He recently sold his business 6 months ago. And so even though I'm under new ownership, and that's another mentor, that guy's fantastic. I've learned so much from him already. But there comes a time where you got to move on, right? Yeah. So we're putting all of our efforts here at the Pinery, which is our business. And so our main thing that most people don't know is that we're a working forest. We're a very small 4-acre pine tree forest. That's an investment. At one point, that's going to get harvested, right? But in the meantime, we got our second business, which is the wedding venue. So people have this very unique opportunity to get married outdoors in the trees and just have fun and socialize with their family in the garden. But then it goes a step further. Since we're outdoors, we can't do weddings in the summertime, or we can, it's just, it doesn't happen. It's just too hot, right? So we're setting up cabins in the back of the property. So now when people get married here, they can stay on property with their family. That's another income stream. So that's my third business right there, right? Airbnb. And it also allows in the summertime when we're not doing weddings to just Airbnb it out to locals, and people can enjoy all that Central Florida has to offer. You know, the springs, Disney World. There's a lot of kayaking out here. Well, just where we live is called Lake County. And it's called Lake County because there's 30,000 lakes. Who would ever thought that, you know? So there's a lot of activities outdoors to do here. And then we're also looking into doing a wooden greenhouse, which would be indoors under AC. This gorgeous greenhouse that we want to build, that we're just so passionate about, is it allowed to do smaller events, and people can be under AC, so we can still do some things in the summertime. But that's also going to be our coffee shop. So the idea is we want to invite the outdoors in. And since we got many roads around here that are scenic roads, we get bikers coming through. So you see, there's people who can come on their bike rides in the weekend, grab a cup of coffee while our guests are staying in Airbnb. They can come grab a cup of coffee. So the idea is that all these different income streams, these businesses rub off of one another. They complement one another.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we have envisioned for the Pinery. I would say in the next year, we would have everything up and running and being functional.
Incredible.
So,
well, you mentioned earlier the power of vision, and how when people see that you have a vision, you share it with them with the passion that you're sharing with it. We all want to be a part of it. So we're gonna keep tabs on the Pinery and see how you all are doing, and we'll come back and visit again. So
that would be great.
I thank you so much for your time today. It's inspiring and energizing to be around you. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. And,
I appreciate it, Greg.
Yes, well, thank you folks for joining us, and we'll see you next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to encourage you again to make comments on anything that you might want to add to the conversation or observations that you've made. Reference the show notes and resources. We're excited to be able to provide those to you. And we want to encourage you, if you want to lean into your growth and discover how we can help you at True North Development, just go to truenorthdevelopment.co.